Hello, greetings. Welcome to day 3 of our Culinary Oils Masterclass. Greetings, greetings, greetings. I hope everyone's doing well. I see you, Fatima. Hello, hello, hello. I hope everyone's doing well. Waiting for some folks to come on in. Hope you guys are having an amazing Thursday. And I am super happy to be here. I see folks jumping on. Hello, hello, hello. We are about to get it in, talking about these oils, y'all. And I think I like this session. I wanted to highlight why I really started thinking about this in a moment. I'm gonna share with you why I started thinking about this. So before we get started, as usual, shout out your city. I'm in Atlanta, the ATL. Good evening, good evening. Shout out your city. What city are you in? What city are you representing? What city are you representing? So I want you guys to shout out your city. Tell us where you at. Are you in the A or are you somewhere else? All right. So shout out your city. Shout out your city, y'all. All right, Arkansas. Ooh, okay, I see you, Arkansas. Very nice. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining, Arkansas. Charlotte. Ooh, Charlotte, North Carolina. I see you, Charlotte. I love Charlotte. Charlotte is a beautiful little city. I love it. So nice. Super nice. Okay, very good. All right, so let's jump in. Let's jump in. I know there are going to be some folks who are coming in a little bit later. Before we get started, for those of you who are brand new to this masterclass, I am Dr. Natasha Bruley, also known as Chef Bee. I am your lifestyle medicine health coach and raw plant-based chef educator. And I basically work with people who are working to incorporate more plant-based foods into their diet, seasonal plant-based foods, and I teach you how to become more empowered using plant-based foods so that you can thrive. All right. So we do that by we offer a few services. We have cleanses, we do coaching, we have courses, we do meal prep. We basically meet people where they are on their plant-based journey, and we work with them to help them to be more, I would say, in alignment with where they need to be health-wise and eating-wise. All right. And so I love talking about different aspects of food. A few months ago, we actually did a master class on plant-based superfoods, which was a lot of fun. And this time around, I wanted to do something a little different. I wanted to do something around oils. Now, the first 2 nights, we actually looked at essential oils. And tonight, we're going to look primarily at cooking oils. All right. So we're talking about your vegetable oils, your olive oil, your peanut oil. We're going to look at those oils tonight. And I want to kind of give you a little background as to why I decided to do this, right? So I mentioned earlier that I have a business called Essential Meals to Go. And Essential Meals to Go is our plant-based meal prep, right? So we really pride ourselves in giving people healthier options as it relates to plant-based foods, because there's a lot of different kinds of food out there. So, there's a lot of vegan junk food, and I actually work with quite a few physicians. And so the people that I tend to work with are really shifting gears because they have some kind of health challenge, whether it's diabetes, whether it's hypertension, whether it's high cholesterol. The people that I tend to work with are really just trying to be mindful about healthier eating. And with that, I'm mindful about the kinds of foods that I make. So one of the things that I've been really thinking a lot about is oil. Okay. Because I say I'm a plant-based chef, right? And one of the things that you must know is when you say you're plant-based plant-based by definition means that you are not eating a lot of refined foods. That's by definition. So if you don't know that, you need to know that. When you say plant-based means that you're incorporating more plants and fruits and vegetables into your diet. So that's going to be the majority of your plate. And you're going to minimize or completely eliminate the fatty things that are hidden in our food. So that's oil. That's oil. All right. And so, I really wanted to bring this home because many of us think that we have to cook with oil. I'm from Guyana, right? I'm from the Caribbean. Some of you who are from the South, some of you who are from different countries, if you remember how people cooked, if you ever were in a kitchen, they usually start a pot with oil, maybe onions, maybe garlic, maybe pepper. And this is sort of what we do. This is the cooking narrative. You get your little oil, you get your onions, you get your garlic, and you start cooking, right? And what I want to say today is that all oils are not created equal, right? So I really wanted to go a little bit deeper into, what's in oil, right? So we talked about essential oil, and that's a whole different thing. Essential oils are different. They're not cooking oils. They have a different chemical structure. We said aromatic compounds. They're just more from a fragrance standpoint, right? Cooking oil, as we'll talk about, is created differently. And there are a few different processes for cooking oil. And the implication for cooking oil when you start bringing it into your diet is a lot. So let's talk a little bit about why this is important. So in America, in the US, right, the thing that people really suffer from, the thing that people die from the most in America is basically cardiovascular disease. All right. So in America, people die of cardiovascular disease. Now, what is cardiovascular disease? In the name, it's heart disease, right? And they're contributing factors to heart disease. One of the contributing factors to heart disease is high blood pressure or hypertension. The second factor for heart disease is diabetes. So if someone is a diabetic, they have a contributing factor to that. And then the last one is hyperlipidemia. All right. Actually, I'll add hyperlipidemia and obesity. So I'm going to actually, they're two separate things, but they're connected. So hypertension is a contributing factor to heart disease, diabetes, obesity, and hyperlipidemia or high cholesterol. Okay. So the last two things that I mentioned, hyperlipidemia, high cholesterol, and obesity, in many cases, there are some cases where this is hereditary, but in many cases, it's a lifestyle thing, right? It's what we're eating. It's the foods that you're choosing. And so if you're able to change and shift the foods that you're choosing, you can actually change your outcomes and reduce your risk of heart disease. All right. And so with that, I just want to also give you another statistic. Specifically, African Americans are disproportionately affected by obesity. So obesity, we said, was one of the contributing factors. All right. Among non-Hispanic Blacks, age 20 and older, 69% of men and 82% of women are overweight or obese. So if you stay overweight or obese, more than likely you're going to have some issues with your cholesterol, right? And not only that, you might have some issues with your blood pressure. You might have some issues with your blood sugar levels. So they usually call these like a trifecta. Trifecta because if you have one of these things, usually you have the others, okay? And so when I thought about high cholesterol and obesity, while some people do have they have family members that are they have hyperlipidemia, much of high cholesterol is by your diet. It's really impacted by the diet, and so is obesity. All right. So what could be that, right? What could be the contributing factor? It could be eating foods that are high in oil, high in saturated fat, because saturated fat is one of the things that raises your cholesterol levels. All right. So that's why this became important to me, right? because I know that I've been looking, I'm seeing all these different plant-based, vegan, vegetarian, everybody vegan, everybody's making vegan food. But when you actually start looking at the quality of the vegan food, it's not always the best quality. And so what I'm encouraging you from this live tonight is for you to be conscious about what it is that you're putting in your mouth, and for you to read your labels. And, after having these conversations around, well, what's the difference with these oils, these cooking oils, you can make some better decisions on how you prepare your food or where you get your food from. All right. If you start looking at the labels and really you can make a conscious decision about what you're eating based on the labels that you are looking at, I've done my job. I've done my job. All right. All right. So that's why this is important to me. I wanted to kind of really bring that home. Heart disease is a real thing. And many people in our communities are suffering from heart disease because of these other issues, right? And much of it is lifestyle. Much of it is the foods that we're choosing. Okay. And so I want you guys to consider oils because much of the foods that we eat has oil in it. Whether you think about it or not, people are putting oil in the food. All right. So what is plant-based cooking oil? All right. Plant-based cooking oil, mind you, there are other kinds of oils, right? There's your animal-based oils. So like your fish oils, there's your shortenings, there's your ghee, there's your butter, all of the, those kinds of oils are coming from animals. Okay. But we're not focusing on those. We're focusing on the ones that come from plants. All right. So oils, plant-based oils are used for a variety of things, right? We're using plant-based oils for cooking, baking, roasting, frying. Frying is a big one in our communities, right? We love fried foods. I know I don't really eat as much fried food as I used to, but man, you're eating that wonderful thing like a French fry, for example, and it was dipped in the oil. You got salt on it. It just has this amazing taste. And so, we like to fry foods, right? So these are some of the reasons why we would use cooking oils to do these kinds of preparations. And many of the oils that we use, again, we use it for these different methods, but some of them have a more intense flavor and some of them have no flavor at all. Okay. We also use these oils to make garlic toast and breads and, all sorts of wonderful, fragrant things that we can eat with, right? We do this to drizzle just lovely, dressings over our salads and over our fruits and vegetables. I'm telling you, it's a thing. And it brings comfort. It makes us feel good. All of that. All right. So when you're looking at cooking oils, sometimes what happens is you have some cooking oils, depending on what the temperature of the house is going to stay in a liquid state. But then once it gets really, really cold, what happens is it starts to change, right? The state changes from liquid to more solid, right? And we'll talk about what's happening when it does that. You find that more animal-based oils do this, and plant-based oils, particularly if they're not as refined, they won't do this as much, all right? And so with that, this helps us to decide. This is another deciding piece for us on what kinds of oils to use. All right, so here's one thing that you want to consider. Oils have certain kinds of compositions, right? So some of you might have heard of saturated fat. Have you guys heard of saturated fat? Anybody knows what saturated fat is? Let me wave to some of these folks. So oils have saturated fat, some of them, not all of them. Some have saturated fat. And I'm asking you guys, do you guys know what saturated fat is? Anybody? All right, we got everybody. Does anyone know what saturated fat is? Anybody? Does anybody know what saturated fat is? All right, so saturated fat, basically it is the composition. It's a fatty chain and it's basically a single chain fatty acid. All right. And so saturated fat is actually not the best thing for us, right? And we'll actually talk a little bit about saturated fat and the different oils that have it. So saturated fat, some oils, some cooking oils have saturated fat, something to keep in mind. Monounsaturated fat, and then, or we call it monounsaturated fat, and then polyunsaturated fat. These are pretty similar. Polyunsaturated fat means that it has multiple chains. It has, so monounsaturated fat basically is saying that it has an unsaturated carbon bond. And then polyunsaturated fat basically is very, very similar to the monounsaturated fat, and it does something different in the body. So let me just say this. When you talk about those two types of fats, you're going to find that that's more in peanuts and seeds, some of our lighter oils, okay? Plant-based, like more plants and seeds like that, right? Saturated fat, you'll find that more in animal-based oils, okay? And if you actually, there's a chart that actually shows you, based on the different kind of oils that you have, what is the percentage of saturated fat, monounsaturated fat, and polyunsaturated fat. And what you'll find is that it's inversely proportioned. What do I mean by that? The foods that are high in unsaturated or saturated fat are usually low in poly and mono unsaturated fat. The foods that are high in mono and polyunsaturated fat are typically lower in saturated fat. So there, it's kind of like this. It's a seesaw. It's never like this. It's usually you either have a lot of the two that I mentioned and a little bit of the saturated, or you have a lot of the saturated and not much of the other two. All right. So what are some examples of oils that have mono and poly unsaturated fat? All right. So some of them are olive oil, canola oil, peanut oil, okay, safflower oil, sesame oil, and avocado oil. Okay, so those are some of the oils that are high in mono unsaturated fat. All right. All right. So if you have any questions, make sure that you ask. Okay, folks. All right. So this is the mono unsaturated fat. Now, the polyunsaturated fat, right? We have soybean oil, corn oil, and sunflower oil. Those are pretty high in polyunsaturated fat. Okay. All right. So these are some of the things that you guys should be thinking about. Does my oil have saturated fat? Does my oil have, or is it mono unsaturated fat, polyunsaturated fat, or does it have a lot of saturated fat? Those are important. Okay. All right. Now, the next thing that we want to talk about is like why do people actually cook with oil? Why do people cook with oil? So anybody want to share, like if you're cooking with oil right now, why do you do it? Why do you cook with oil? What does cooking with oil give you or help you with? Anybody want to say? Why do you cook with oil? So I see folks here on Facebook and YouTube, and I also see folks on Instagram. Tell me, why do you actually cook with oil? What does oil serve a purpose for you in your cooking? Why do you use it? Why do you use that? Anybody want to share? So if you do any kind of cooking, you might have some kind of oil sitting around in the kitchen and you're doing some things with it. Why do you use the oil to cook with? All right, so Fatima is saying she's sauteing. Okay, good. You're sauteing. Yes. Anybody else want to share? Why else would you use your oil? And I'm telling you, it's a culturation. We've been taught to use oil, but you really don't need it. We don't really need all of these things when we cook, okay? But you're right. We would saute. You might saute some onions. You might saute some mushrooms. You might saute some peppers. You know, there's also, I just want to say there's energetic thing that happens when we cook, right? We're thinking about our childhood. We're thinking about what maybe our mothers, our dads, our grandmothers used to make. And in some cases, we're trying to evoke that again when we're cooking. All right. So now some people are responding. Someone said they use the oil for flavor. Okay, yes, absolutely. Someone says here they use it for deep frying things. Yes. We also have someone that says so it doesn't stick to the pan. Very practical. Yes, you absolutely do, right? So you don't want it to stick to the pan. You want to deep fry some things. You want to saute. You're looking for some flavor. Use some oils. Absolutely. All right. So the oil serves a number of purposes, right? So one of the things that it does, if we're baking, let's say you're baking something, like let's say this is the holiday season, you're using like maybe shortening to make a pie. And with that pie, there's a crustiness that you want, there's a butteriness that you want. So you flake the shortening in with the flour to give the pie crust a certain texture so that when it's baked, it has a certain, consistency. Someone mentioned taste, crispiness, crunch, all of that, right? So shortening helps to give your pastries a crumbly texture. All right. We also use our oils for flavoring. So someone mentioned that. We also use our oils as a base for carrying things, right? So we talked about the sauteing. So the peppers, the onions, all of that. So there's that food that we're about to create, oil. When you actually use the oil, you heat it up and you add vegetables to it. It helps to infuse the flavor of whatever that spice or herb or whatever it is that you're using into the oil. So there's a number of reasons why we use oil, right? It's just been ingrained in us to use this to just change, just help us to create different things in the kitchen. Oh, by the way, when we're making things like cream sauces, right? You add the cream sauce. To make a cream sauce, you would use like flour and you would use oil. And when you bring those two things together, you basically can get the start of something that's really creamy and beautiful, right? And so you use oil to change the consistency of your flour so that you could get something very creamy, all right? So oil is used just in so many different ways. All right. Now, when you are choosing an oil to cook with, I want y'all to think about these three things. All right, actually four things. So I want you to write this down. When you choose to cook with the oil, I want you to make four considerations. All right. The first consideration is the smoke point. And so we're going to talk about smoke point and some of the different oils and what their smoke points are. So smoke point. So the smoke point is the temperature that the fats begin to break down and oxidize. So you don't want to use an oil past the smoke point. So how do you know that? When you actually you get a hot pan and you add an oil to the pan and then it starts to smoke and burn, you really should throw it away at that point because you've heated it past its smoke point. You're burning the oil. You're burning it and it's starting to break down at that point. Okay, so you want to just heat up the oil gently and then do your magic. All right, so smoke point is very, very important, right? We want only to use high smoke point oils for things like frying, roasting, baking, and sauteing. We want to use low smoke point oils for things like making dressings, dips, and then finishing. So you know how like if you go to a fancy restaurant, they'll just kind of have a drizzle of olive oil or something on the food. That's because it's finishing. It's a finishing oil. All right, so that's the first thing. So smoke point. We also want to be mindful about the nutritional value of the oil. All right. We want to know if it's a monounsaturated fat. We want to know if it's a polyunsaturated fat or if it is a saturated fat. Okay, so let me say something about poly that I didn't mention before. Polyunsaturated fats and monounsaturated fats are actually good for you. So let me make sure I say that. They're actually good for you. So remember we talked earlier about high cholesterol? We talked about that, right? So for high cholesterol, Your cholesterol is actually comprised of two things: HDL, which is your high density lipoprotein, and then LDL, which is your low density lipoprotein. HDL is considered good, LDL is considered not so good. All right, so we want as much HDL as we can, and we want to minimize our LDL. The number together, those two numbers together make up our cholesterol, our total cholesterol. So here's the deal: saturated fat increases our LDL, it drives it up, and polyunsaturated fats and monounsaturated fats drives our HDL actually up, right? So it increases it, and then it helps to lower the LDL. So that's what we're thinking about. It's actually a good oil to have in your system because it helps to move your lipid protein around in your blood, and it helps to reduce your HDL level. So it's actually a nice thing. All right, so your nutritional facts, smoke point, those are the two. The third thing is the taste. This is something that you definitely want to be mindful of with your oils. All right, some oils are notable for their flavors. And not only that, when you're buying oils, the way you know that the oils are good is if they taste like they're supposed to taste. If they taste rancid, they taste kind of, I don't even know the word, brackish, then you don't want to use it, right? So for example, sesame oil has a very beautiful, rich, nutty taste. That's okay, right? Some of the foods that we eat, if we're eating Asian foods, they require that sort of flavor, right? And so that's what we're looking for. Peanut oil has a peanutty, nutty taste. And so that's typically used for, certain kinds of dishes. And it's okay that it has that peanutty taste. So it just really depends on what it is that you're making. You want to make sure that you are using oil that is in alignment with what you're making, but then also you want to make sure that you're using an oil that doesn't taste weird. All right, so the last thing that you want to consider when you're purchasing oil is price. All right, so when you go to the store, I mean, I know that if I go to, like a health food store, there's so many options, right? And so people typically choose the oil that's the cheapest. But I want you to be mindful that the reason why some of these oils are very expensive is because of the way it's produced. There's not a lot of production on those particular oils. So a perfect example of that is avocado oil. You'll see small containers of avocado oil. You'll see small containers of things like grapeseed oil. You'll see small containers of peanut oil. Okay. So the prices of those things are actually higher. And the reason why is because they're not made in large quantities, like maybe an olive oil or some of the other things that you see on the market. So those are the four things that you want to consider when you're purchasing an oil: the smoke point, the nutritional facts, its taste, and its price. Okay. Any questions about that? You guys good? Yes? We good? We rocking? All right. So now I want to talk about some oils that you should be thinking about. And if you're using these oils now, I just wanted to give you some information about them so you can really decide if those are some oils that you want to continue using. All right. So the first oil that I want to talk about is canola oil. Okay. I want to talk about canola oil. All right. So actually, this is probably one of the oils that is used in many, 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 many foods. All right. It's actually one of the cheapest oils to produce. And from I would say a manufacturing standpoint, if you actually look at the ingredient with potato chips, with different prepared foods, you're going to see canola oil as the ingredient. All right. Um, and I'll say this, I'm just giving you guys the education. You'll make the decision for yourself. But when you actually hear some of the things about canola oil, you can decide if that's something that you want to continue using. All right, so canola oil is actually made from something called rapeseed, not grapeseed, but rapeseed. Rapeseed is a plant, and it's kind of a stalky plant, and it has yellow and green sort of flowerings. And what they do is they make canola oil from this. Canola oil originated in Canada, and it is a combination of two words, Canada and ola, which means oil. So canola. All right. It is low in saturated fat. It's low in saturated fat. So remember what we talked about, these 4 criteria that you should be thinking about when you're buying your oils, right? It's a neutral flavored oil. It's a neutral flavored oil. It has a very high smoke point. So this is something that we would see for sauteing, for baking, for frying, things of that nature. Okay. It is also used for all-purpose cooking. It's also used for making dressing. So if you actually looked at the labels when you go to the store, you know, all your dressings are typically made with, unless it's otherwise stated, it's usually made with a canola oil. All right. Again, it's super cheap to produce. It's made in large quantities, you know, canola oil. All right. And then, you know, when we talk about how it's produced, you know, I would even say this is a 5th criteria, but, you know, we talked about those 4. Canola oil is highly processed. It's highly processed. So let me take you through some of the things that they do before they make canola oil. So there's seed cleaning, right? So once they actually get the canola seeds, they have to separate it or hull it, clean it, remove any impurities, any dirt, things of that nature. Then they do seed conditioning and flaking, right? And mind you, they're cooking it to do these different processes. All right, so that's seed conditioning and flaking. Then there's seed cooking, all right? Then there's seed cooking. Then once they do seed cooking, then there's seed pressing, all right? Then after seed pressing, there's solvent extraction, all right? So they're taking the seeds. So what they do first is this. So let's go back. Seed conditioning, seeds are preheated and flaked. Seed cooking, the seed flakes are cooked by a series of steam heat cookers. Seed pressing, the cooked canola seed flakes are pressed in series of screw presses or expellers, leaving the rest to be extracted by other means. Then there's a solvent extraction. The remaining seed flakes, right, are broken down by using chemicals called hexane to obtain the remainder of the oil. The next step is desolvatizing. So that hexane that they're using is then stripped from the canola meal by heating it a 3rd time. Mind you, we've heated it 3 times. Then the last thing is they're processing the oil. The extracted oil is refined by varying methods, such as steam distillation. All right, exposure to phosphoric acid. All right, so from a nutritional standpoint, canola oil has about 124 calories, right? You know, like per serving. We're talking about like 1 tablespoon. It also has vitamin E, vitamin K, which are important things for us to have in our diet. However, there are quite a few processes to make canola oil. So it's a highly refined oil. And so you got to think about that. If your oils are highly refined, you know, in regards to its naturalness, think about what happens when it's going through your system in regards to like your liver, filtration, right? It's going to have a harder time filtering out things that it doesn't recognize. So while canola oil is in many of our foods, right, we want to be mindful about the process of how we get canola oil. And if you want your body to go through that when they have to actually cleanse, it has to process all of that. Because at some point, some of those things are being left behind. Okay, so canola oil. So on one side, while it's low in saturated fat, has a high smoke point, everyone uses it, you know, you want to consider these pieces that we're talking about and decide if that's something that you want to consistently consume. All right. If you have canola oil every now and then, you grab something on the go and it has canola oil, that's different. But if you're eating oils all the time in your food, you really want to be mindful about where they're coming from. That's the point. Okay. All right. So that's the first one that's a little bit controversial. So when people say, oh, I don't eat stuff with canola oil, that's probably one of the reasons why they're concerned about the way it's processed. All right, so the next oil that I want to talk about is extra virgin olive oil. Extra virgin olive oil. So how many of you out there use extra virgin olive oil? Anybody? How many of you use extra virgin olive oil? Anybody? So you have your extra virgin olive oil, your light olive oil. Okay. Anybody uses extra virgin? All right. So somebody said, me, I use extra virgin olive oil. I do too. I use extra virgin olive oil. Does anyone know the difference between extra virgin olive oil and some of the other olive oils? Anybody? You know the difference between extra virgin olive oil and maybe light or just regular olive oil? And I'm telling you, there's a ton of olive oils on the market, right? There's a ton of them. All right, so somebody says that they do. Okay, a few more people are saying, I use extra virgin olive oil. All right, so let me tell you. So, out of all the olive oils, or I would say out of all the olive oils, extra virgin olive oil is the one that's the least refined. All right, there's really no refining process. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but what they do is they take olives, literally the olives, and they put it on a press. Right, so just imagine like a sheet, right, a wooden sheet, and they put all of the olives on there, and then they take another wooden piece, like so, and they press the olive oil they press the olive into each other, and then it starts to just drip out olive oil. That is how extra virgin olive oil is made. Okay. The regular olive oil, you see it on the bottle, it'll say refined. So they're doing some kind of heating to to create the other kinds of olive oil. But out of those three that we just mentioned, extra virgin olive oil is the least refined. All right. So we know that this particular olive oil is fruity and tangy, it's bold in flavor. Some people even use olive oil as a supplement, right? So they're using olive oil daily to cleanse, to keep their body, lubricated. So it's actually medicine too. You don't want to drink too much of it, right? But it's actually used as medicine. All right. We also mentioned here that the caloric value for extra virgin olive oil and the other olive oils are pretty much around the same. It's about 9 grams or 9 grams of calories, right? The calories like 9. The smoke points are different. So if you have an extra virgin olive oil, the smoke point is like 320 degrees, right? Your virgin, so there's extra virgin, there's virgin, that's 420 degrees. And then you have a light olive oil, that's 468 degrees, right? So you have these different smoke points. Now, in general, when we're using olive oils, we're not really frying anything with the olive oil, right? Olive oils are usually made for dressing things. So making a dressing, making, a marinade or finishing. It's like a finishing oil because it has such a beautiful flavor. You can actually drizzle some over pasta or soup, or you can do a toasted bread. So you know what I'm saying? Like you wouldn't really do high heat cooking with the olive oil. All right. Um, you wouldn't do like frying or deep frying with olive oil. All right. So this one, like I said, does not go through the same process. And in regards to the saturated fats that we were talking about, this one is low in saturated fat, but it's higher in polyunsaturated fat and monounsaturated fat. So that's something that you want to be mindful of. Yes, so you talked about cold pressing or raw. Yes, this is another name, right? So you might see on the bottle cold pressed, unrefined, raw, right? That's all that's saying, that it doesn't go through the same kind of processes as we just talked about for canola. So that's actually a good thing. That's really a good thing. So I'm going to actually just talk collectively about some of these other oils. So like peanut oil and sesame seed oil. These are also not really refined oils. You typically see sesame oil and peanut oil cooked in or used in Asian cooking, and they have pretty high smoke points. Typically, people are using sesame oil so that they can get that wonderful nutty flavor, and the same thing for peanut oil. All right. Um, they have high smoke points. We mentioned that. And also you can use, but I'll say this, peanut oil, you can use this for frying, roasting, deep frying, and baking. But sesame oil, you want to use that for sauces and dressings. All right. You can use it for deep frying, but you don't really see a lot of people using sesame oil for deep frying. And part of it is because you get so little of it when you do buy it. It's kind of like you're going to waste all of your oil on frying. You only get a little bit of it. So a little goes a long way when you're talking about sesame oil. All right. So once again, these two particular oils are pretty low in saturated fat, but it's higher in monounsaturated fat and polyunsaturated fat. All right, so someone asked a question. So is one better than the other, extra virgin or regular? All right, so if you had to choose, right, that's a great question. If you had to choose, I would choose extra virgin olive oil all the time. All right. So it really depends on what's on the shelf, right? So if you had extra virgin on the shelf or regular olive oil on the shelf, I would choose extra virgin. That's what I would choose. Okay. But if I had regular olive oil on the shelf and canola on the shelf, which one would y'all choose? If you had regular olive oil on the shelf, based on all the stuff we said earlier, and you had canola oil on the shelf, which would you choose? Which one would you choose? So it's a toss up, right? What is it for you? You gonna use olive oil or you gonna use canola oil? What would you choose? So I'm saying hello to those of you who are just joining us. What would you choose? All right, olive, right. And not only that, I would say it really depends on what you're doing, right? So if you're trying to fry some stuff, maybe olive oil is not the best choice for you, right? It's not the best choice. But if you're looking at the way it's processed, the olive oil is less, it's less refined. So you can make a decision. Do I really need to fry this thing? Can I do a light saute? Can I just kind of keep it simple? So, I think there's a mindfulness, right? And what I find is that there's not just one oil that's in people's cabinets. They usually have one or two oils that they're using because it helps them with different things. And they're trying to achieve a certain thing when they're cooking. And so that particular oil that they're using may not achieve that thing. So they have multiple oils inside of their pantry to help them achieve whatever it is that they're trying to achieve. But you're right. I would choose the olive oil. If I had the choice between canola and olive oil, I don't care what I'm doing. I'm going to choose the olive oil. Yep. And someone else said the same thing. They would choose that. All right, Miss McGee Palmer, I see you. You raising your hand or you saying hello? If you're saying hello, hello. If you're raising your hand, ask your question. Just drop it in the comments. All right. Also, someone said, plus the canola plant seems weird. Yeah, it's a little weird. It's different. It's just something a little different, and it's just highly processed. All right. So someone says, what oil do you recommend for frying? Okay, cool. Good question. All right. So I'll come back to that. I'll come back to that. All right. So we talked about peanut oil. We talked about sesame oil. Here's the last oil that I want to talk about. Here's the last one that's the most controversial. The one that's most controversial, believe it or not. Y'all know what the most controversial oil is? Anybody? What is the most controversial oil? And I'm controversial by Chef Bee's idea of controversial? Anybody? I'm going to answer your question. Ali is blessed when we finish talking about this last oil. Does anyone know what plant oil is the most controversial? Anybody know? Take a crack at it. Ooh. And we didn't talk about soybean oil. Ooh, okay. That's actually a good answer. Soybean oil. I'm not even talking about soybean oil. And the reason why I'm not talking about soybean oil is because the soybean plant is not necessarily natural. So soybean oil is really not like really natural. So I'm not talking about that. That's a good one, but no, I'm not going to talk about soybean oil. I'm going to talk about another one. Starts with a C. I give y'all a hint. Ooh, avocado is good. Yes, McGee Palmer. She said it. Coconut oil is controversial. Coconut oil is controversial. All right, so here's why coconut oil is controversial. All right, so let me talk a little bit about what coconut oil has in it. Okay, so it's a high smoke. Can y'all hear me still on Instagram? Please tell me you can hear me. Can y'all hear me? Please say yes. Can y'all hear me on Instagram? Yes. Someone just called. Can y'all still hear me? No. Okay. So I'm going to have to jump off on Instagram and then come back on. All right. So I'm going to jump off and come back on. All right, y'all. So this happens sometimes when people call me, it just drops the audio from my live feed. All right, so we're hoping that these people come back in. All right, so I'm gonna wait for some folks to jump in. All right, cool. We got a couple of people coming back. McGee Palmer, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Let me know yes or no if you can hear me. For those of you on IG Live, can you hear me now? Yes or no? Awesome, good, great. All right, so as people jump back in, coconut oil is probably one of the most controversial oils. All right, and let's talk about why. So while coconut oil has a high smoke point, so 350 degrees, all right, there are unrefined versions of coconut oil, right? So you've seen them. They have coconut oils that says extra virgin. So when you hear extra virgin, that means that they're not really doing a lot of refining like what we saw with the canola. All right. Um, it's good for frying. So, someone asked about, well, what's a good one for frying? It's good for frying, pan frying, stir frying, not good for deep frying, really. But here's what makes it controversial, y'all. It's high in saturated fat. All right. And we saw saturated fat is not really good for you, right? Saturated fat helps to drive up the LDL, which is your quote unquote bad cholesterol, right? So on one end, you got this oil, this coconut oil, but then on the other end, it has some of these properties. But here's why it's also controversial. Even though it's high in saturated fat, it also has a acidic, like a compound in it called lauric acid. It has a high amount of lauric acid. And lauric acid actually helps with improving the composition of your blood lipid level. So it helps to move your blood through your body. And so even though we said it's high in saturated fat, it actually has this thing called lauric acid, and it actually helps to make sure that your HDL level is nice, flowing, doing its thing, and the LDL level is not high at all. All right. So kind of interesting. Kind of interesting. So now actually there's been studies done about coconut oil. And so, the verdict is out. because we know the high, like saturated fat is not good. And so because we know saturated fat is not good, because this particular oil has saturated fat, they've done studies to see if that saturated fat has impacted people who are using it on a consistent basis. And come to find out, it really does not increase people's chances of heart disease, even though it's high in saturated fat. All right. Um, Actually, actually helps to lower certain cases of heart disease because of the lauric acid that it has. All right. So it's a weird one. It's a weird one. Now, I'll say this, I'm from Guyana. I remember my mother making coconut oil from scratch in the kitchen when we were kids. Actually, when we would go to Guyana, that's something that people would get. They would give it to you as a gift. It was highly, I would say, unprocessed. So much so that if you did not use it within a short period of time, it would go rancid on you. That's how fresh it was. And typically, when people are making coconut oil, what they're using is the meat, the flesh of the coconut. So if you've ever seen a coconut, it's a white flesh on the outside. They call that the copra, and then they dry it, right? That copra is what they use to make coconut oil. All right. Unfortunately, what happens when they dry that coconut meat, again, it's called copra, when they're transitioning it from maybe where it was raised at the farm to where they're processing, sometimes that stuff goes rancid or has mold on it. And so what happens is they take it through a refining process so that they don't lose the copra. And so when you see refined coconut oil, that's what you're probably getting. You're getting a product that has gone through a lot of processing because that copper has been damaged over time. So ideally, the best thing for you to do is to buy extra virgin or unrefined coconut oil. If you can smell the coconut flavor inside of the oil, that's actually a good thing. When you're not smelling the coconut flavor inside of the oil, then you know that it's been heavily refined. And so we definitely want to stay away from oils that are super refined because those things impact our bodies. Okay. Any questions? Any questions? I'm so sorry, Instagram. I'm so sorry. When someone calls me, it actually just bumps me. All right. It bumps me right off. All right. So I wanted to kind of just give you, just so you can know, and then we'll come back and we'll answer your question. And you may not like the way I answer the question, but I'm gonna try to answer the question for you. All right. Um, in addition to coconut oil, there is another plant-based oil that's super high in saturated fat, and I definitely want you to know about that. So the other oil that is high in saturated fat is palm kernel oil. So this is used tremendously in African cooking. It's a very rich oil. It actually, at room temperature, it's very thick. You might see it's kind of a golden color, some of the varieties, and then it's also a red color, some of the varieties. Okay. So we said coconut oil is high in saturated fat. Palm kernel oil is high in saturated fat. Palm oil is high in saturated fat. All right. And these are percentages. So palm kernel oil is 86% saturated fat. Palm oil, 51% saturated fat, just so you know. Olive oil, 14% saturated fat. Okay. Safflower oil, just giving you some examples, 6% saturated fat. Safflower oil, 6% saturated fat. Sunflower oil, safflower, we said, sunflower oil, 11% saturated fat, and soybean oil, 15% saturated fat. All right, so these are higher, the ones that I mentioned were higher in saturated fat, but when you go over to the polyunsaturated or the monounsaturated fats, you see that it's just like the numbers are completely different. All right, so let me give an example. For palm oil, it's 10% polyunsaturated fat. Okay, so just so you can get an idea. All right. So these are the things that you guys should be thinking about when you're buying oils. All right. So let's see. We have someone that says, "Oh yes, palm oil highly used in Ghanaian dishes. Safflower is the best. It sounds like." All right. So the question is, well, what do you cook with, right? What do you cook with? I would say that you don't just choose one oil, right? You need different oils for different things. You need different oils for different things. Um, I would suggest that you have maybe like an olive oil. You can do an extra virgin olive oil for like light cooking. Like again, if you're doing finishings, if you're doing dressings, things of that nature, I would have something like an olive oil, an extra virgin olive oil. I would still use coconut oil, but in moderation. I wouldn't use a lot of it. Okay. You can also use, see, again, it's not just one answer to this question. Someone else says, did I miss grapeseed oil? Using that a lot. Yeah, so that's also a very, very nice oil too. Um, the thing is, not everybody can find grapeseed oil where they are, right? They might have to go on Amazon, but not everybody can find grapeseed oil. But that's also a very nice oil as well. You also want to consider using oils in season. You want to also consider using oils in season, right? And so for this time of year, some of the oils that, and I can pull it up for you, some of the oils that are good for right now. Let's see. Some of the oils that are good for right now. So you have your sunflower oil. That's a really good one for right now. Your olive oils, that's good for right now. Grape seed oils, those are also very good for right now. And when I say right now, I'm talking about the fall season. Those are some really good oils for right now. So remember what we were talking about with using things within the seasons: fall, winter, spring, summer, all of those things, right? So you want to make sure that you're considering using these oils that are in season. And so those are some good ones. Avocado oil is also a good oil for light cooking. If you were asking me if you were doing some kind of frying, I would use peanut oil, actually. If there's not a nut allergy, I would use peanut oil for frying. All right. And let it be that. I wouldn't use vegetable oil. And the reason why I wouldn't use vegetable oil is because it usually is a combination of three other oils. Vegetable oil is typically made with soybean oil, canola oil, and then sometimes they're using like sunflower oil. So they're combining different things and different processes. So again, it's a neutral flavored oil, all of that, but I would not, I wouldn't use that if you're really trying to get into healthy oil and healthy cooking. We want to minimize how much oil we're actually using in our foods, or keeping it all away. Like you don't need any of this stuff, right? So I would say, let me give you guys, let me say this. So for Essential Meals to Go, when we are preparing food for our clients, we minimize the use of oil. So I'm not going to tell you that I don't use oil, because I do. And typically in the kitchen, I'm using like an olive oil, I'm using a little bit of coconut oil. And that's usually it. Maybe grapeseed oil, maybe, but not really, right? And here's why, right? We've been cultured to use oil in our foods, but having all this oil in our food is actually impacting our heart. It's impacting our cholesterol. It's impacting us in a major way that we're not really thinking about. So if you're thinking like, oh my gosh, how come I can't lose this weight? Or you go to the doctor every 6 months. Why is my cholesterol is so high? You don't even realize how much oil is inside of your food. One of the things that we do is we don't always cook with oil when we're starting our food. We don't use oil in our soups. We don't use oil in our dressings. We're not using any of that, because here's the deal. Those foods that we talked about that have monounsaturated fat and polyunsaturated fat are things like your almonds, your pumpkin seeds, your walnuts, those kinds of foods. And there's a full fat, the fiber, the fat, everything is inside of that particular nut. And so cashews, all of that. So when we're making dressings, we're actually using the entire nut, right? And so by the time you actually blend it and do all that stuff, the oil that it needs to have is automatically inside of that dressing. For soups, you don't need oil. You don't need it. So, I really want you guys to think about that. How much oil are you actually using in your food? And just reconsider, you don't need all this stuff, right? And look at your labels. If you're seeing canola oil in a lot of your foods, you might want to consider finding some stuff that doesn't have canola oil in it. If your foods have a lot of oil, the foods that you're buying, or even I would say this, when you go to a restaurant and you ask them if you're getting fried chicken or fried anything, ask them what they're frying the foods in. Are they frying it in peanut oil, vegetable oil, a shortening? Those are all heavily refined. Or are they using something more natural like a peanut oil or even like a coconut oil? Are they doing that? Find out. We don't always ask what people are doing. And so, when we actually go to our physician to get our checkups, we're like, oh my God, we're so surprised at what's happening, but you're not really asking questions when you actually go to the store to buy these things. How many people ask the waiters, the waitress, well, what are you guys doing? We're scared to ask these questions. We're scared to ask these questions because we don't want to feel like we're too intrusive in the process. But you need to know if you're eating outside of your home, you need to be asking the back of the house, what are they doing? Because you need to know. One person's food is the other person's poison. You need to know what kind of oil they're putting in the food and how much. So I'm really serious about that. That is one of the big reasons why I decided to do this live, because, man, y'all, folks are doing some crazy stuff out here. All right, calling it vegan and vegetarian and healthy cooking. And it's not. It's not. All right, it's not. All right, so we said a mouthful tonight. We said a mouthful tonight. All right, so what time is it? What time is it? Oh boy, we are right there. We are right there. So guess what, y'all? Y'all know what time it is? It's that time. Y'all know what time it is? Let's see if you guys know the time. All right. What time is it? Anybody know what time it is? What they doing? All right. I don't know what that question is asking. Y'all, it's giveaway time. It's giveaway time. So we gave y'all a lot of information. So I want to, before we start doing any giveaways, quiz time. That's right. Before we do any kind of giveaways, what I want to do is I want you guys to really think about what you're eating. Be intentional, y'all. I think it was night one. We talked about how food is information that tells your cells what to become. So if you're eating foods that are high in saturated fats, you're telling your cells to become fat. You're telling your HDL to go down, and you're telling your LDL to go up. All right. Yes. So everyone said it's giveaway time. Absolutely. So I really, the reason why I did this class is because I really want you guys to live healthy and abundant lives. And I want you to be empowered. And I want you to read your labels, and I want you to just be mindful about the things that you're putting in your mouth in the name of being healthy, in the name of being plant-based or vegan or any of these things. So you have a little more of an understanding of the things that you should look for. And that's actually going to be the first question. That's going to be the first question. So the first question is, what are the four things? What are the four things that you should be looking for when you are considering an oil for use? Okay, now before anyone answers that question, here's what's up for grabs. The thing that's up for grabs is a guide. So I've created an essential oil guide. So the first two nights, we talk very much about essential oils. And so I have a guide that I've produced that kind of shows you all the ways that you can use the essential oils, tips for cooking, you name it. So that is up for grabs tonight. All right. So my question that's on the table, once again, what are the 4 considerations that you should have whenever you are purchasing oils, cooking oils, not essential oils, cooking oils now? What are the 4 considerations? All right, let's see. All right. So I have one person. That's just, let's see. She just gave me 3. Angela, you just gave me 3. All right. So McGee Palmer, I saw smoke point, price, taste, and nutritional value. Yes. Excellent. All right. So McGee Palmer, you got it. You got it, McGee Palmer. Smoke point, price, taste, and nutritional value. Those are the 4 things that you definitely want to consider when you are selecting an oil for use in your home. All right. Smoke point, price, taste, and nutritional value. Oh man, go McGee Palmer. So you won the guide tonight. So I'm going to get that guide to you, your essential oils guide. Okay. Very good. Very good. All right. Yeah. Awesome. 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 All right. Any questions about that? I see some folks coming in and they're giving me like maybe 2, 3, but they didn't give me all of them. They didn't give me all of them. All right. All right. So we have one more. Let's see if y'all really, this one, we're going to see if you were listening. We're going to see if y'all were listening. Okay. All right. So this is the last prize. This is the last prize. The last prize. All right. So let me say this. I have a course and you all can, I would love for you all to participate in this course. So I have a course called Transform and Thrive with Plant-Based Foods. And it is a 6-month course. You guys can completely access it virtually. And we have a clinical component in the course where we talk about these different health outcomes, the hypertension, the cholesterol, you name it. And what we do is we talk about the plant-based foods that you should be using for that course, for that health outcome, excuse me. All right. So in addition to that, we talk about essential oils and how you use essential oils in your food. And then we have several modules where you learn how to do a variety of things with essential oils and without. You learn about raw food preparation. You learn about substitutions. You learn how to use the essential oils in the food and more. Okay. You learn about my style of cooking, you name it. So the last prize is going to be 2 lessons from that module of essential oils in the course. So you're going to get 2 lessons from the essential oil module in the course. All right. So this one's a big one. So we're going to see if you guys were listening, because you guys know you got to take some good notes when you're with me. Okay. All right. So we talked about 3 types of fats, right? We talked about saturated fat, we talked about polyunsaturated fat, and we talked about monounsaturated fat. So the question for the 2 lessons in the course, give me 2 examples of oils that are polyunsaturated and give me 2 examples of oils that are monounsaturated. So that's the question. We have polyunsaturated and monounsaturated. Give me 2 oils that are polyunsaturated fat, and give me 2 oils that are monounsaturated fat. Let's see if you guys were listening. All right. Yes, and congratulations to Miss McGee Palmer. All right, so let's see. Come on, who is listening? Who is listening? Come on. I see Deuce. Deuce just joined. Greetings, Deuce. What's up? What's up? Hello, hello, hello. All right, y'all, come on. Polyunsaturated and monounsaturated. What were 2 oils that were polyunsaturated and what were 2 oils that were monounsaturated? Let's see if y'all was listening. Let's see. Let's see. I'm going to give you guys a minute. I'm going to give you guys a minute for that one. Come on, people. Anybody wrote it down? Woo! Come on, beautifuls. All right, let's see. Let's see if she is correct. Nope. Angela, nope. Hold on. Let me confirm. Nope. Angela, nope. All right, so let's see. Hold on. All right, so Nisa on Instagram, I see your words, but I don't know which one is poly and which one's mono unsaturated. So let's start with poly. Please, if you're gonna tell me the oils for poly, tell me what those are. All right, say poly dash and then the two oils. Mono dash and the two oils, because I don't know which one is which that you think about. All right, let's see. So Kim, which one is it? Poly or mono? I'm not sure which one is which. I know this one's a hard question, so I'm working with y'all. Let me see. Come on, y'all. Kim, which one is this one that you posted? Is it poly or mono? All right, let's see. Nope. Nope, Miss McGee. Nope, that's not what we said. I know this question is a tough one. This is a tough one. This is truly a tough one. All right, I need two. I need two that are mono. Two that are mono. Nisa, I see your one that's mono, but I need another one. What's the other one? Come on. I see one. I need two of them that are mono. Got one more? Okay, so she said the first one is poly. All right, so let me see. She said the first one is poly. Okay, let me look. Okay, nope. This one's a hard one. This is a tough question. All right, this is a tough question. All right, so you guys didn't get that one. Let me tell you what it is again, just so you know. So for polyunsaturated fat, the oils that are polyunsaturated fat or have, are high in polyunsaturated fats are soybean oil, corn oil, and sunflower oil. Okay, those are the three oils that are super high in polyunsaturated fats. Okay, for monounsaturated fats, the oils that are high in that are olive oil, canola oil, peanut oil, safflower oil, sesame oil, and avocado oil. Okay. So I think, Kim, you had it backwards. You had it backwards. All right. So fine. No one got that one. So that's cool. No one got that one. No one got that one. All right. So I have to come up with a different question. So hold on. Let me think of a different question. You guys, you threw me off a little bit. You threw me off a little bit. All right. Let me see. Let me see. All right. Ooh, I got one. All right. So I talked about various oils that were high in saturated fat. Give me three oils that are high in saturated fat. Give me three oils that are high in saturated fat. And I know we talked about this. Give me three oils that are high in saturated fat. What are three oils that are high in saturated fat? Come on, beautifuls. We went through the list of oils. What are three oils that are high in saturated fat? Come on, three plant-based oils that are high in saturated fat. What you think? This is so much fun. I love this. What you think? So this is the last. I'm not going to add any more questions. If we don't get this, then y'all don't get it. I just want 3 oils that we discussed that are high in saturated fat. What you think? What are they? Come on. Come on. Y'all could do it. Y'all could do it. Come on. Come on. Ooh. Ooh. Okay, let's see. Was that true? All right. All right. So I see someone, they got 2 out of the 3. 2 out of the 3. So I'm going to actually just give it to you because it's fine. I'm going to give it because I'm looking at the other answer here and it's not correct. All right. So the 3 oils that we discussed that were high in saturated fat was palm kernel oil, palm oil, and coconut oil. All right. So we talked in depth about coconut oil, palm oil, because we talked about it in African food, and then palm kernel oil, and then palm oil. Those 3 oils are high in saturated fat. All right. So I'm going to actually give it to, where is she? Nisa Mona Lisa. Please, what I want you to do is DM me with your information, your email address, and we're gonna get that. We're gonna get those lessons to you. All right, guys. All right, so y'all, this was cool. This was cool. I learned a lot about oils preparing for this masterclass, and I just hope that you guys take a further dive into oils, both essential oils and cooking oils, because y'all, I just want y'all to be healthy, and I don't want you guys out here just caught out here with the hype, right? So everybody and their mama plant-based, everybody and their mama eating vegan, but they're eating junk food. They're eating junk food. And so you want to be mindful about what people are offering, particularly when you go to like festivals and you go and pop-ups. Really what's the integrity of the food, right? And so I want you guys to really consider that. I want you to think about what's the integrity of the foods that you're eating, and does it have a lot of oil in it, and what are the differences? So again, just to sum things up, if you're frying, high smoke point oils, you want oils that are going to can manage that, right? The high heat cooking. So things like your peanut oil, that's pretty good for that. Safflower oil, those are pretty good for that, right? Coconut oil is actually even good for that too, like you're sauteing. But if you're doing some just light cooking, you're not really bringing high heat to your food. You're finishing, you're making dressings, things like your avocado oil, things like your olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, preferably, that would be a good one. Sesame oils, those are really nice because they have a beautiful nutty flavor. Oh, we mentioned peanut oil. That's actually good for frying and all of that stuff. So look at your labels. If you can see like non-GMO, because the other thing is we didn't talk much about GMO, but some of these oils are genetically modified organisms, and we got to be mindful of that. You're going to see that with more of the vegetable oils and the canola oils. They're going to be more GMO in nature, but like the olive oils, they're not going to be as GMO, right? There's going to be more organic. So just be mindful about what you guys are doing out there. Before we go, I want to just kind of give you guys some quick announcements on some things that's coming up for me. Number one, we have Essential Meals to Go. We offer weekly plant-based meals, for healthy plant-based meals for people who are really working to take their health back, eat better, just have a more healthy, thriving lifestyle. And they just don't have time to cook. So with that, we have Essential Meals to Go. We do 3-day, 4-day, and 5-day plans. We drop our menus on Monday, and then you have till Friday at 12 noon to order. Okay, you can go to essentialmealstogo.com. That's the number 2go.com, and you can find our offerings for the week. All right, so it's still early. If you guys want to order, you guys have till tomorrow at 12 noon. Okay, that's one. We deliver, we ship, And you can also pick up from our commercial kitchen. All right. If we ship on Monday, you get it Tuesday. That's how that works. So that's one of my offers. The second one is the Pallet Reset. The Pallet Reset is coming up December 20th to the 29th. That's our first date. And then January 10th to the 19th. So we're talking about oils and all this stuff. You got to make sure you're cleansing the liver, the kidney, the spleen, and the colon, right? And you want to push all of these toxins out of your body periodically. And so the Pallet Reset is an opportunity for you to do that. All right. So we do these seasonal cleanses, and you learn how to make some really beautiful seasonal plant-based foods. We have two options now. If you want to do the cleanse where you actually get the ebook, get the kit, all of the things, and you want to just do it with me and you make your own food, you could do that. But then for a limited number of spots, we're also giving people the opportunity to just kind of, let us do the work. So we do most of the heavy lifting with the cooking, and then that way you can just really be in the cleanse doing what you need to do. So when you go to the site, thepalletreset.com, you can see the differences in those. The early bird price right now is available until November 30th, and then the price goes up. So if you want to check this out, make sure that you get to the site. We also mentioned that we have the course, Transform and Thrive. That's also on our page. So, guys, if you go to chefbee.com, you're going to see everything that I offer. You're going to see the cleanses, you're going to see meal prep, you're going to see the course, and then you're going to also see our community. All right. So we'll talk more about our membership as we get closer to the new year. Because right now I know people are in the mindset of getting ready for the holidays. But I know that y'all are thinking about, well, what should I be eating? What should I not be eating? So, I'm giving you guys some options to think about. Oh, and the last thing is, for those of you who are local, we have holiday meal kits. I forgot all about that. We have holiday meal kits. So if you're looking to have a healthier Thanksgiving this year, we have a healthy meal kit that you guys can purchase so that you can, still be with the flow of your family, but you're making some healthier options. Okay. So that's it. That's what I got, y'all. That's what I got. It was so awesome hanging out with y'all these last 3 nights. I hope you guys learned a little something. And don't forget, those of you who are winners tonight, and congratulations to all the winners. Yay. Please make sure that you inbox me with your information so that I can get your gifts to you. And I'm looking forward to hanging with you guys again. And stay tuned for the next masterclass, which is probably going to be in the new year. Okay. So much love to you all. Please be safe out there. I know the holidays are coming around. God bless to you. And, please make some healthy decisions and have a good time, right? Have an awesome time with your family and your friends, and be safe in whatever it is that you do. All right. So I am out of here. Talk to y'all soon, and just look out for me on the gram. I'll see you guys very, very soon. Peace and love.